in the midst of the snowstorm. Thank you for persevering and being here.
Sorry.
No, you're welcome, and thank you very much.
You gonna turn it over?
Yes, I am, just a prelim, whether a quorum is actually required as far as the budget committee, when we're not taking any votes, I guess I'm not thinking that has to be the case. And also, I believe that Jimmy Deanne will be here, is always a little bit late, because when your work closes at 4 o'clock in Lancaster, so we'll have to be here at 4 o'clock, but I think he'll be along. But in any case, other than that, we're ready, so I'll turn it over to Karen. She has the agenda for the evening. And
I know you needed a budget to use for today, so I'm going to pass that along to him. And what we're going to talk about is the Parks and Rec. I think everyone else has their former budgets. And the pages we're going to look at start on, I believe, page 38, but you wouldn't have that. So I'm going to review the proposed budget. Just wondering, I got the wrong one in front of me. I need to make sure I got the right one. The one you have that I just gave you, could you look on the front and see what it says, 2019 draft default and proposed budget?
printed 10/24.
The one I have is, it was printed on the bottom, very bottom, 10/29 at 5/41. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. Make sure. So the page starts on 38. And I'll start with the 2019 proposed. So Parks and Recreation revenues have been revised. They are a little bit higher than the proposed. If you look down to total income revenue line, over on your right-hand side, you're going to see $142,530. And this is an estimated, based on review between Chris. Does everybody know who Chris is yet? Chris Wilkins?
Our new Parks Director this year.
Chris has been here since
February 22nd.
The day changed his life.
And where did you come from, Chris?
I came from a YMCA in Old Town, Maine.
Oh, okay.
But you had ties to the Littleton, St. Johnsbury, Littleton area.
So I'm a graduate of what is now Northern Vermont University in their mountain and recreation management programs.
Nice. Last name you said
Wilkins.
Wilkins, okay. Stanley Wilkins?
No relation.
No, because there are a lot of Wilkins in the Lindenville, St. J area, right?
Didn't meet any of them. But,
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there for a few years, but, yeah.
So we'll keep going on this. What we're going to do is look over the expenditures, then come back to this top section, middle section that talks about the tax, the total appropriation on the tax rate. So in staffing, under the proposed, we have, of course, the ground superintendent, or municipal groundskeeper, as we call them. We have the Parks and Recreation Director. We have a buildings and grounds maintenance part-time person right now. We want to have them full-time in the proposed budget. We have a part-time children's programmer that works roughly 20 hours a week. Some weeks is less, some weeks is more. This is a person that's running our after-school program and helping immensely with the summer program, does our billing. She keeps track of what people owe, helps them fill out paperwork if they need to. It's amazing what this young lady does. She, I believe, is also involved in the school too.
Yes.
Do you remind me of somebody?
Temporary seasonal positions in the proposed. We have our day camp, which is a little higher. The more children we have involved, the more we're going to need staff. We have our recreational programmer, which is summer only. That's to help out with some of the different programs that we offer. The after-school program, we do have to hire counselors for that to help, because when you have, how many kids in the program?
A lot, it's roughly 75 to 80 kids per day, sometimes it's more. So it takes a lot of staff. And this year, we've started raising our ratios to fit more with state, what the licensed programming rates are, which is 1 to 13. For younger kids, it's even fewer than that. So it takes a lot of staff to run programming.
And I don't know about you, I couldn't do 80 kids. I think I have a hard time, one grandchild for 3 days in a row.
Depends how well you can blow the whistle.
Pool staff, we have a slight increase in this to 14,000. We're moving our grounds part-time laborer out into full-time. We also have temporary winter labor in case we need. It's $1 there. And temporary summer laborer is $1 in here. And that's if we do need some additional help, or if one of our permanent staff gets ill, we need to be able to put somebody in there temporarily to help out. Also depends on our income, because if we have additional income coming in, we are going to need to put some staff on to help out in certain areas. Commissioners' salaries are the same. Overtime, we added, bumped that up by 1,000 because of added responsibilities, and based on what the department is doing will depend on whether there's overtime. The overtime is normally only with the groundskeeping and taking care of the buildings and grounds. The major portion of the staff that are school-related, after-school-related, or summer camp-related have very little overtime. Most of them are scheduled around 20 to 30 hours a week, or less. Health insurance, we have a slight change there. Last year we had a plan that was partially added because of a staff member coming on later in the year. We're hoping to hire or move this person to full-time so they would be eligible for health insurance. So the plan is in the proposed to add that plan in for 9 months.
So that's just for 9 months, so it's $1,000 a month increase.
Yes, it's expected. We have a rough idea of what this person would expect for a plan. And I can't specifically say what that plan is, but I can say it's more than a single plan.
Okay.
Okay? So, of course, with staff changes, you have wage-related changes all the way down through. In retirement, we do have an adjustment there because of added full-time staff. Under employee training, lifeguard, Red Cross, we have some additional training. We want to continue to train our staff to make sure that they can take care of emergency situations. You have yours? We're on, right now, page 39, 46. Workers' compensation is, just got that increase that is in the default as well. Uniform, we do have an increase in the uniforms for what would be our labor staff, our grounds labor. We want to make sure that they're wearing safety boots. They're using chainsaws, lawnmowers, sharp equipment where they could get hurt. We also want them dressed appropriately and have them wearing hard hats and gloves when they need to, safety goggles, and so on.
Chris, are they pretty good about that?
They are, especially around town. You see signs that say "Welcome to Littleton." There's a triangle right in front of Beal House. There's a lot of traffic, so we make sure that they're wearing the correct safety vests, things like that. You have to have them for summer as well as winter, especially when they're working on the roadways, which are state highways. And people can drive pretty crazy sometimes. So.
And they could take part in regular training through Primex, our liability insurance provider. I think even the New Hampshire Municipal Association does some chainsaw safety training.
Yep, good. Patrick did the chainsaw. He's also done the plowing one that we sent DPW to. just because he does all the parks, grounds, things like that, so.
Okay, thank you.
And in Diane's absence, she'd made this point with the school, the last meeting with the school, we were going over their safety procedures. We got an update from Mr. Fagan on, went through boot camp on, you know, how things are done today, whatever. And one thing she had mentioned to them, and I'm sure she'd be mentioning tonight if she was here, was that particularly when you're using school facilities, that you and your staff are up to speed on
Yep.
the school's procedures, which I know they said a lot of your employees are students anyway, so but.
They are students, but I know that they're also going to be doing a live training in late spring, I believe, once the kids get out of school. And I think that involves police, I'm not positive. But we were invited to be a part of that, so we'll make sure that we're on board and follow their codes.
Fully integrated.
Yep.
Continuing to telephone, we have a change in service. The hopes is to change over 2 lines in our service and have maybe more mobile telephone contact. Internet access. We do want to upgrade our website for registrations, make it easier for registration. Hopefully integrate maybe the Opera House as part of that. To have a place where people can go online with the Opera House and buy tickets or
season passes to the
yeah,
pool
pay
and
for
that kind of thing.
something through that.
It's more facility based, so we have a lot of different fields, we have a lot of different people using them, so it's a better way to keep track, charge online. So if someone, instead of coming to me and having paperwork, it does it all electronically, and they have software specifically for recreation. And that's what it would be, that's what that would entail.
Grant admin and grant match is the same as what we've been having in there, trying to at least have a little bit of funds aside in case something came up for equipment or whatever we might need. We'd have some match for that,
Quick
and
question,
also some administrative cost.
quick question on the software for,
Yeah.
I'm sure you use it for programs and things like that. Is that system going to be able to work with your system as far as receipts and?
So the way it would
procedure?
work is if someone swipes a card online,
Yeah.
that account gets linked directly to a Parks and Recreation credit card account.
Okay,
That's been set up and approved, I believe, was it by the budget committee?
It was by the selectmen.
By the selectmen, and so it goes directly into the accounts.
Yeah.
And then we go back in and we can track everything that happens through that programming.
okay.
And
So
we
as far as-
reconcile it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then, so
So
then
it's
you
still-
review the records as far as revenues and things like that?
Yes,
Okay.
and so the only thing that's one of the main things that would change isn't that, well, we'll still have our, like when I put a check in, I still have my deposit sheet, but then as a second match on, right now we're using QuickBooks.
Yeah.
And so it matches with QuickBooks and with the paper copies that we hand in. And we're just switching out to QuickBooks for this recreation software, and we'll be able to print out the changes, or any income that we have.
Now, I don't use QuickBooks, but we have more controls in place since Chris has come on than we've had in the past. There has been a lot of different steps in place to make sure we have records of who's paid what, the deposits are
So-
getting in on time, where the money's going to.
One of the biggest changes this year was before they were using a QuickBooks system that was only on one computer. You had to use that computer, and it wasn't online. It was software specifically for a computer. Now we're using the online version, and both Karen and Nicole I gave them admin access to the account. So at any time, they can log in remotely from any computer and see what's going on in the system. So it's just another layer of accountability, which this new software will also have.
And convenience.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, even it's tying up a lot of different processes together, like, for example, like registrations right now, like we were having, some difficulty locating old registrations and who paid and who didn't.
Yeah.
This seamlessly keeps track of all of that in one system, so, there's the AP side, but then also the actual team registrations or field use fees and.
Yep.
And all kinds of report generation functions that is going to be key for
Yes.
planning, et cetera.
Yeah.
So on to electricity, heating, water, sewer are all the same numbers. Even though the electric is going up roughly 11%, After reviewing the account, it was felt that the number in the electric line was adequate enough. So we didn't feel that it needed to be increased by 11%.
Are we looking at maybe changing some of our outdoor lighting? Maybe we already have to LEDs in the future, or
We haven't gone over that as much. We've been focusing a lot on programming and how our department is running. So we haven't quite gotten there yet. But that is something that we would like to look at.
Energy committee, that's gone over recreation.
I don't think so.
Yeah, when that was on the select board, where the energy committee had done an audit of a lot of the municipal facilities. I don't remember if they had done that.
Did the park.
Would that be something that they could
One of the biggest usage pieces right now would be during the summertime at Apthorpe Common with those overhead lights. If we were going to change light bulbs, that would be the place I would start, just because our green building is no longer, we don't use it for, except for a warming hut, and our maintenance staff. That building really isn't used much anymore. And so the Apthorpe building and night lights would be where we would start with that audit process.
Under building maintenance, the number in here is 15,000. It's what it was last year. We did expend a little more than that at this time. Pool equipment, we have increased that to 5,000. We added 2,500 for pool painting. This pool painting is something that we hope to do on a yearly basis to try to keep the pool sealed so it's not leaking out and will last a little bit longer.
Yeah, and the pool has some terminal issues. I don't know how much longer it's going to last.
Not much.
Yeah. It has some major leaking, and I think the only way for us to actually repair it is to actually tear the pool off. So at some point,
As of right now, we lose about 1.5 to 2 inches of water each day. And that eats up the chemicals.
That's going down, not up.
We don't know where it goes. So there is a leak somewhere, we don't know. But that is something that's gonna have to be addressed at some point. But for right now, with the work we put into it, we're doing all right for now. But it is
30 years old.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's
No,
an old
the
facility.
pool was built in either
69.
69?
Somewhere
So it's
around there,
50
yeah.
years old,
Yeah,
just
so
about.
it's-
What's the size of it?
It's 172 gallons, I think is what people had.
Every week,
Oh,
172 gallons?
Oh, how much we're losing. No. That's the total gallons of the pool.
172,000,
So the whole pool volume is 172,000
Yeah,
gallons.
right.
So if we're losing an inch a night, we might be losing a couple hundred a week, I'm guessing. But that's still not great because we're still paying for the
I
water.
don't know what it's doing to the underground. as
Yep,
far
there's
as
the other piece of
getting
it.
rid of the foundation.
But also in terms of chemical usage, the
Circulation.
chemical usage each year, as far as it looks like to me, it's going up
Yeah.
because we have to replace everything that's lost. So it's not great environmentally or,
So if we, sometime in the not too distant future, have to look at that pool redo,
Yep.
I mean, it's gonna,
yeah, we are looking at it, and
preliminary estimates are around $500,000. One of the things that the Park and Recreation community and our commissioners would like to see is a little bit more of a water park. It'd be a bigger draw, so hopefully it would help us increase our revenue in that department. And we really think that, by adding more of a water park feel, you have the draw. So even though you spend a lot of money to get it set up,
It's still for the kids.
If you
Yeah.
look at what's going on around us, it's a better combination of a smaller pool and more of a water park, because we've talked about it. We said we get an extra 150 people up there a day with a water park, because you're talking about 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, their mothers, brothers. It's a whole difference versus a lap pool, which is just that you have. And
Can't you get a spray sealer on there that goes way beyond
yeah,
it?
so some of the leaking is actually in the piping. And
Oh, pipe itself.
yeah,
Oh, so it's not
and-
even getting to the pool.
right. Yeah, there's circulation issues too, where we're having to add extra chemicals because the pool isn't able to circulate through the filtration system properly. So
That's-
can we be able to do that on the same site, we thinking, or are we thinking even beyond that, or?
I mean, if we looked at different options, but I definitely think so, because if you go down to Bartlett and you look at the water park that they have down there, you know, at the ski resort, you know, it's not huge, but boy, I'll tell you, does it get used. And it doesn't require much. There's a lot less maintenance in terms of, you know, water, chemicals, everything else, but it provides us a whole different atmosphere, and I think it would draw a lot of people in.
Are we gonna consider a heating system?
So I went down and visited the pool in Lisbon that the Lions Club built, and they had a much more modern construction, different way that they do the concrete. And that pool is now 6 or 7 years old, and they've had a couple cracks in it, but so far it's held up beautifully. And that's the type of construction that we would be looking into. I've already reached out to the company. I'm in the process of talking to them, trying to figure out a design and what that would cost. It's not going to be for 2019, obviously.
That's a few years away when you're going to see about doing the whole thing.
Yeah. So that's one of the projects that we need to look at.
Do we have the ability though to increase the footprint a little bit to where we are, or we?
I think.
Well, we do. I mean, you've got the top of, you know, to the top of the sledding hill, you've got a lot of different things that you can do up there. You've got land, you know, the thing we talked about is you've got so much grassland back towards the woods that really doesn't get utilized at all. You know, where that shelter is back there and everything else. So again, the idea is to modernize a lot of things, you know, make it so you can actually, you know, maybe have little barbecue pits back there. All types of different things we're talking about to, you know, reach out.
Because obviously
to attract more.
we're going to make a major investment. We want to think outside the box.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I mean, even a few small, not large, but small water slides is another huge draw for traffic. So I mean, those are the types of things that we're.
And if the kids didn't come up back to their mothers with blue lips, that would be even better.
That's true. You're right.
And a wood boiler could do great winters up there.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
I think so.
Hey Chris, could you maybe elaborate a little bit about what fees you charge currently for the pool, like seasonal passes and day passes?
Yeah, so it depends on how much, if you're a resident, I think it's $2 for kids and $4 for adults. Non-residents, it goes up from 3 to 5.
Per day?
Yes. The season passes for a family of 4 are $100. For each additional person, it's around $15.
Are any families turned away?
No. I mean, if people aren't paying, then they generally don't come in.
But say that again for the families, $100
For a family of 4 for the entire season, for a season. All of the kids in our after-school program get a free season pass, so they come in when you know, even on weekends. So, yeah.
Were you thinking, Mel, about any scholarship type situations?
Something, because I just cannot,
Yeah.
it just breaks my heart that some kids may not can swim.
We have in the past, I mean, it's a very, you know, touchy subject, and you have to figure out how, and we do it with the school in terms of anonymous. If someone, a teacher or a coach comes to us and say, look, I've got someone, they need a glove, they can't afford it. We have a fund set aside in Crusader Pride to buy that, and we just do it. So same kind of situation here in the past where we've had, where we know, we just waive the fee.
Sure.
With basketball, I've had a couple families already come and say, hey, by the way, it's not going to happen. Yes, I say, yes, it is going to happen.
You're right.
Yeah, you're in. So it's, access is important to us.
Absolutely.
You know, having it at low cost. Coming up on the 15th of December, we have our Polar Express movie night, which is $3 for a movie, hot chocolate, and a bell that they, you know, and it's low cost programming. You come, and we have different community businesses, Healthy Rhino and Flu Media are donating. We have a magician coming, so they get the magician, hot chocolate, and a movie, and a little gift for $3. You know, so those are the types of things that we're able to do for the community, keeping costs low.
Okay. And just before I let back to cameras, we need to progress, but also as the school is thinking about replacement of the elementary school, there's conversation we're having in terms of any mutual type needs or whatever that could be incorporated in their program, right?
So, and one of the issues that, you know, what I said was we are absolutely open to it. I know with all of the school security items coming up around the country, that's something that we have to address.
It's changed drastically now in terms of
Exactly.
sharing buildings, sharing facility, what they have to secure and lock down and how they have to do it versus community use. We've talking with some of the board members and they say it's not as easy as what we thought it would be.
Yeah.
Well,
The
don't
rules
let
have
that,
changed so much, but I agree with you.
Yeah,
There's
don't
no
let that-
duplicate resources that if we
don't
can,
let that get in your
Wouldn't be
way
great,
and don't take no
Right.
for an answer too easily, because, you know, schools are, I mean, they have to be able to think outside the box too a little bit, and then let's not just say, you know, oh, it just can't be done, because
And then one of the reasons why we feel we need a new recreation facility is gymnasium space. Right now, we share with the school, they do a terrific job of letting us use the space. But with all the teams that they have, all the teams that we have, we still need more gymnasium space. Right now, it would be great to run winter senior programming such as pickleball, but I don't have a space for it in the wintertime. So by having our own space, it would allow us to be able to run more programming that right now we don't have the opportunity to run. So, and then if we have access in our own gymnasium space, then we're in.
Karen,
Okay, going to property liability insurance, of course, there was a 6% increase there. Parks, operating supplies and paper, there is an increase here. There never seemed to be a budget for restroom paper and cleaning supplies. It's kind of something you really should have. It was always figured out that we'd end up buying the stuff, but we really should add it in. Pool operating supplies, chemicals, and medical supplies, we've increased that budget by $1,000, so it's $3,000. Equipment maintenance, we've increased that by $500. Gas and oil stays the same. We have a mileage line, it's actually not new, it's been there for a while, but we've reduced it to $500. And the reason why we reduced it is because we should be able to use, number one, the police admin vehicle. And we also have, of course, the Parks and Rec truck that can be used. So,
I think in the past there were more trips far away to pick up supplies, and we now have local sources for those supplies.
so the next page is groundskeeping. We've increased that by $2,000. And if you look down through, you'll see the gray line says needed at various events, like a porta potty, trash removal. Those are things that never really were considered in the past. We need to make sure that we have those things. 4th of July, we might have 1 bathroom or 2 bathrooms available, but that may not be enough for the size of people that are there.
Well,
It was a phenomenal
Yes,
event.
very good.
We estimated over 1,500 people on the Friday of the fireworks.
I heard that's always on.
and no fights will stop.
Very good. Thanks to the police department.
Vehicle,
Well, thanks to local demeanor. I think.
Yeah, that's true.
vehicle maintenance, traffic plow, oil changes, filters, etc. We have increased that by $500. Concession snacks resold at the pool, day camp and rink, that's $2,500. Parks equipment purchase, we've increased this from $1,000 to $3,000. We need to get a new push mower and a new weed whacker.
What kind of mower is that? It's not just a little, you know, your
Yep.
homeowner guy mower.
It is one of those. We've,
For 3,000 or?
well, there's other equipment.
Oh, okay.
It's not just that. It's like right now our big snow blower is, we just had to repair that again. And that's something we have to have for our trail, for the ice rink, and snow removal. But it's been beat up pretty well, and generally rocks can't really get caught. But over the years it's gotten dings from rocks hitting it, and it's opened gaps where rocks can now get stuck in between the spinny things, whatever they are.
Augers.
And those things.
Horizontal and vertical.
Yeah.
He just become a homeowner, so he'll learn all of these things.
Yeah. But we recently had to replace a piece of the snow blower because a rock got caught in there. They don't have to be big rocks to do damage to it, but there's a lot of wear and tear that's happened over the years. We had to do a couple different welding projects on some of our 3-point hitch items, such as a York rig. Part of it just snapped off this year. So we had to have that re-welded. So it's not just that, it's not just the mower and weed whacker. We use a lot of different equipment, and it's trying to make sure we have adequate supplies.
Just a question on that. Would it make sense to break those up between summer and winter type of equipment? So that if you're, say, using that equipment somewhere more often, that maybe,
I'm not
So
sure.
it's parks
it would-
equipment purchase.
okay.
I think I know what you're saying. Like if like
Yeah.
say you're working on a justification for a fee or something for where it's used. Well,
Yeah, if you're if you're using the snow blower to clean off the park, or if
Yeah,
by chance you're doing something at the school or whatever,
okay.
that line item would be for winter.
Hmm.
Just a thought,
Yeah.
don't have to,
Mhm.
because then you know you have so much budgeted for winter equipment, and then there's so much budgeted for,
That make it easier
Summer.
for planning ahead if they're differentiated.
just a thought.
Could be used
So-
for discussion. I know you.
Pool equipment purchase, we have increased that. It was 800, it's now 1,000. We still have $1 in here for use of fund balance. The commissioners are able to use the parks fund balance, a revolving fund, to do improvements, do emergency purchases, repair. Actually, they can purchase items if needed from that fund balance. They can use it for the 4th of July fireworks if they choose.
Karen, what was the $44,000 spent on?
There was a new pickup bought this year. And there was also, I'm trying to think of the other thing that was the
Last year
tractor.
they did the tractor.
Tractor was last
Yeah,
year.
that was in 2017. This year we had a new pickup truck purchased from Littleton Chevy. The other one was in rough shape, rusted out bottom. We were having to replace more electrical work. We were having to replace the electrical lights, things like that, more and more often. And it was on its last legs. That was a 2010 or 11 truck. And it got used pretty hard. So we were able to purchase a new truck. We were able to get a $10,000 trade-in for that one. And so we got a really good deal.
gift.
It was,
Rather
it
than-
was.
Rather than ask the taxpayers to pay for it or take a loan out on it, they had enough in their fund balance to be able to go out and purchase one.
And that's a 1-ton truck, snowplow.
It's a
Double body.
Chevy 3500.
Yeah.
And that included the sander and plow.
Wow.
Yep.
Thank you,
So-
Chevy.
Yes.
So we've got audit expense. We've increased that by $500. It does cost money every time you have an audit where you might have a grant involved, and we expect that there'll be some grant monies there that will need to be audited this coming year. So most of the larger departments have to pay for a little share of that audit. The transfer station does, the sewer budget does, so they pay for a little share of the audit. And this is $1,000 because the Parks and Rec department has records that they need to have audited, as well as the rest of the town that would be taking in any type of money.
Is the advertising right below it tied into the audit?
No,
It's tied into grants?
the advertising is for, like, the
Newspaper
summer
ads.
programs, their events and activities. It could be advertising for bids on a project up there. It could be advertising for basketball programs, any of the summer programs that went on. Might be advertising for the Parks and Rec director. Hopefully he won't run away, but
Not running.
But yeah.
May I ask a question on that? You've
Yes.
had $2,800 to date in 2018. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah,
But
so
you're saying $1,000 in
So-
2019?
that money was, we have our banner program where local businesses can purchase a banner and we buy the banners we used Photo Factory to make the banners.
Right.
And so that's part of that. And then the banners go up, we own those
The banners
banners.
are in the revenue. over here.
Yes.
We
Yes.
own those banners
Okay.
now. So next year, we're gonna use those same banners, reach out to the same companies. We now don't have to buy those banners anymore.
Good.
You know, so it's, you know, that was kind of, you know, donations for Park and Rec programming. They get the advertising up on the fence during 4th of July, all the soccer games that happen, things like that, at 3 different locations we had this year, the pool, Remick Park, and Apthorpe Common. So, we did a really good job. We had 24 banners made. Last year, we had 8. So we've really increased our outreach to local businesses for that. So hopefully we grow more next year.
So after-school program is the same number, 2,000?
Excuse me, Karen, maybe Chris can talk a little bit about, some people in the community and the viewers might say, well, the Boys and Girls Club are looking for some after-school funding for their program, and now the Parks and Rec has an after-school program. So maybe you can compare and contrast how those, you know, differ and or are they the same, and why are they both deserving of funding or taxpayer money?
So in a lot of ways, they can be similar, but I think the Boys and Girls Club, they add transportation down to Lisbon. They have different towns that they cater to. So say a family doesn't have a car to get down there, we're here. We're here for after school, so parents can come and walk, get their kids, go home. We also have sports after school, so a lot of the kids that have basketball stay with us, and then they'll go to their
So
basketball
how
teams.
many are in your after-school program?
We average 50 a day.
What was the high point?
I've seen up to 60.
Okay.
Yep. Low can be 38, depends on the day, depends on, you know, if it's near a long weekend, a lot of kids go home and they leave early. So it depends on the time of year and what's going on around that time. So
What are your hours for after-school programming?
right after school, so they walk out of class right down to the cafeteria. We're actually located at Lakeway Elementary, and we're there until 5 o'clock.
So roughly 2:30 to 5.
Yes.
And it is highly supervised.
Yes. Yep.
Summer program, we have the same number there, 15,500. Under recreational program, various recreation programs during the year, we've added into the proposed $8,000 for fireworks. The other various recreation programming throughout the year stays the same, so the total number for that line is $22,133.
Karen, where were the fireworks last year?
We held them at Remick Park. Oh, you mean in the budget?
Who's budget?
They weren't in it. And it was so every year Park and Recreation we have our annual golf tournament, which historically has been the sponsoring event for the for the fireworks, and that's paid for the fireworks.
Is that gonna happen this year?
Yes. Yep, so the golf tournament, we also added as, we're running the golf tournament
I see
again.
it in the revenue.
So out of that rec program, budgeted 14,000, spent 26 already. So what?
Yep, so
what's
part
the
of
big
that,
swing in that one?
That included the fireworks,
yes,
the 8,000 for fireworks this year.
Oh, so it was spent, it's
yeah.
in, okay. Just wasn't in the budget.
Yeah, it just wasn't budgeted for it.
It is a recreation program, so
Yeah.
it made it appropriate.
There were
to put it
also
there.
other events that we had donations for. So we'd run a program, but we also had concerts in the park. We paid, one of the bands cost $1,500, but we had $1,300 of that covered from sponsors, for local businesses paid for sponsorships to pay for the bands. So there was an increase, but in our revenues, it was accounted for in revenues via donations and programming.
And those summer concerts were quite well received.
It was great. We had a great time.
So under the proposed budget, the last line, total Parks and Recreation, the amount is $454,833. It is a $65,201 increase, 17% increase. And it's not just one particular item that has increased. There are several items throughout the budget that has increased. Of course, you've got one staff member becoming full-time.
Less than 20 minutes.
Now, if we can review the revenues, you go back to page 38. You look at the revenues, there is a increase from last year's on the day camp. The field trips is the same. The after-school program, we have a little bit of a reduction. Last year, of course, we were trying to come up with what it might be, and at that time, we didn't have a Parks and Rec director. Under swimming lessons, we've reduced that number. Season passes, we've reduced that number to be more appropriate to what's happening. Under school pool day admission, daily admission, we have reduced that number. Concessions, we have increased that number. That's an item that we could add more to the income on, even if it's 10 cents, 25 cents. And the more activities that we have going on there, we have a concession stand up there, the more that we will be able to sell through that concession stand.
What's the pool other charges? How does that revenue, how's that generated?
It could be rentals, it could be someone donating to have some work done, or other items. So that was,
We do get a little bit of donations in here and there.
Like a birthday party rental for the.
yes.
Yeah.
Good, thanks.
We added a line called recreation donations, and that's kind of why we added that line, because people do make some small donations here and there to the parks, and we're hoping that will continue. We budgeted $1,000. I know that might be a little ambitious, but you never know.
Chris, do you have or propose to have like a Friends of Littleton Parks, or?
There is a group called Friends of Remick Park right now, and that group actually we fixed the gazebo this year, and that was done by donations. And we've had, I'm drawing a blank on what they are, but if we need something done, we have groups that come in and say, yep, we're gonna help out. Littleton Babe Ruth, we needed a toilet, Littleton Babe Ruth donated the toilet.
Nice.
So there's little things like that that happen within the community to make our recreation happen. So,
You know what they have for fund balance, Friends of Remick Park?
Friends of Remick, I don't know off the top of my head.
They've been pretty inactive for.
They have, but we have, I am the president of that at the moment, and more to keep it active. Bob Whitcomb has been a huge part of helping that. I had a playground inspection done earlier this year, back in May, and we'll call it ungood for now. But with the help of Schilling Brewing Company and some other groups, Studio School helped us with a fundraiser. During their Oktoberfest, we were the recipient of their donations and sponsorship, and we ended up raising over $7,000 that are now going into the Friends of Remick fund that's going to be going to a new playground. The estimated cost of that is going to be $150,000, and we're trying to offset as much of it as we can by being creative, working with partners and doing that fundraising with Friends of Remick. So,
Because I think the last time that Friends of River Park was really active was when we built that playground, wasn't it?
30 years ago, and they've,
Has it been that long?
yep, 1989.
That playground equipment is 30 years old?
Yes.
So when you say new, I mean, on the same site, just
Same
needs
site.
to be upgraded?
Yep, we're toying with the idea of changing the footprint a little bit to incorporate the landscape. So instead of having a slide that you climb up a ladder to get to, it's at the top of a hill.
Yeah.
You go down the slide, down the hill, and then have like a rock scramble to get back up to the top of the hill.
Yeah.
So we're kind of toying with the idea of using the landscape more for that. And that's also a part of that $150,000 goal that we have. So we know it's a lot. There's a lot of things that we want to happen for Parks and Recreation, but we are doing what we can to be creative within the community to make that happen.
So it sounds like you got quite a few big projects coming. Is there a schedule of, you know, you're looking to do this by 2020 or 2025?
Something like the playground, where I would like to happen next year, but we don't have an exact timeline. It's just kind of when they start falling into place, that's when we're going to go for them. One of the more pressing needs for us is a building and having a safe facility for our staff to be in. Should I go over one of the repairs for the green building?
Well,
Different
Well, I guess
It's pretty
where I was going with
like,
it is
like a staged out plan, like dog park 2019.
Yeah.
there's several entities in town that all have schedules.
I know.
It would be nice to be able to compare those
Or capital
schedules.
improvements.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Chris, do you feel this is a $55,000 increase in income, in revenue? That's quite significant.
Yeah,
Y'all feel comfortable with that?
I do. Partially because of what we've done with our banner program, our donations, and the golf tournament at $8,000 right off the bat. You know, and I think we can even increase that. But I do think it's feasible.
So we'll keep going.
Yes.
At this point, reimbursement from the general fund for plowing at the town office. That is something we are working on. We have recently found out that the plow just barely fits through the drive-through, so we may be running into a little problem with that. And for now, we're going to use our contractor until, I hope, the end of December, and maybe be able to do something beyond that for next year. So instead of the town paying a contractor to take care of the bank parking lot, which is part of our agreement with the bank, we could use parks and pay into parks versus paying outside the town. And that's all up in the air at this point.
Yeah, so why include that in this instead of the DPW budget?
Because the DPW budget is for the roads and the sidewalk, not for a parking lot. The parks normally take care of their own parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Right.
Because there's other, like,
There's probably
police
another
lots
one.
and things like that, so I was just wondering.
The
How far
town
away
trucks
is it?
won't fit in there either. They're actually bigger than the parks truck.
Yeah, so I'm assuming it was a plow.
That's why they made a shovel.
Yeah, so,
So yeah, part of our
So that's why it's
part of our
over
use with the bank is we take care of plowing of the parking lot and the drive-through in the front. They take care of the landscaping, shoveling, and that sort of thing. And so what we have been doing is subbing that out to a contractor, and it's under, I think that's within the buildings line items what we pay for.
Our general buildings.
I
And
remember
so,
15,000 last year.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
no, it was lower than that, I think, maybe like 6.
It was about 6,000.
6,000?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, what we're looking to do is utilize our
New truck.
crew here, it's a new truck, yeah, kind of offset. So, and the highway crew too, I mean, they're kind of at capacity during storms with our staffing level and equipment to keep the roads and all the regular roads and sidewalks open. And parking lots typically take a much lower priority.
Yeah.
Where, with our lease, we're really supposed to have this thing open right away. So, throw them at it.
So recreation programming, we have bumped that to 20,000. Facility fees, we've bumped that to 1,500. We have zeroed out in the proposed the SAU groundskeeping fee. This, we always called it a school donation. The last 2 years, we have not been receiving that.
They've refused to pay us.
And I am told it's because of the Parks Department not plowing the school. This was something that we've always received over the years, but it's being held to try to get us to sign an MOU with the school.
Do we pay for use of the gym at Lakeway?
No.
No nonprofits pay for use. They have a policy for a fee schedule, and so yeah, no not-for-profits pay for use. But that is all things that are going to be taken into consideration when we start negotiating an MOU. You know, we've looked at everything from what it actually takes to plow, and I think that we were charging, I think it was what, like 28 or so, is that right, for plowing? And that wasn't covering our costs, maybe it was up to 30.
No, we weren't charging 30,000, we
No.
were charging more like 12,000 for labor and then whatever the sand and salt cost.
And they would contribute towards like some of the vehicle expenses, and it wasn't actually covering our costs for it. So they went out to bid, and when we were having staff changes and capacity issues where we really couldn't make the school a priority. We didn't have the ability to get to it. They went out to get quotes because they really didn't want to help pay us more to be able to get staff to where we need to be. And their quotes came in at $80,000, and they got a lesser quote, I believe it was $60,000, and that was only plowing if there was 2 inches or more. So then we ended up in a situation where the school would actually have, you know, our guys would get in there and clean it out at night when they could, because it ended up with packed down snow that the contractor wasn't going to remove, and that was still at that higher rate. So what we'd like to do is be able to negotiate an MOU that helps keep the town, you know, have an equitable agreement with the town that also could save them money, the school money, and takes into consideration all of the labor and equipment use that goes in. We basically keep the fields up for the school. It's really mainly a school use, so there's a big portion of that that's really would be a school expense. And then the same thing with taking a look at what we get out of it. We do get usage of facilities, and there is a value to that. So
So who are you negotiating with, superintendent?
right now we're gathering up all the information, and we're going to talk with the superintendent to get.
Because this has been going on for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so.
So we have 2 years that has not been paid to us that I have out there as receivables that have been approved by the voters through the school budget to be paid to us. So we're out at this point $12,000. When I did bill for equipment through the FEMA rates, it was told to me that that was not part of the agreement and they weren't paying us for equipment rate because the taxpayers had already paid for that equipment.
For the last 2 years, we have not been providing, the rec department has not been providing services to the school.
But we've been providing field services on taking care of the fields,
So, yeah,
repairing them.
There's 2 separate things. One is we had a fee schedule for the plowing, and then there's also a field use to help, you know, recover some of the costs of labor and equipment to keep the fields up for baseball teams, soccer teams, that sort of thing. And that's a completely separate thing. They're withholding that now, really tying it to the separate thing, which is the plowing service. So. And it's really just the last season, the 17-18 winter season that we had plowing. So.
We continue on. We have interest income. We've estimated $750 in there. Miscellaneous income fund use balance. We bumped that up by $8,000 from the default. Last year we had it in as $1, but we believe that we'll take in about $8,000 for firework use of the fund balance. The commissioners would be approving that use of the fund balance. So if we continue down, the total revenues, I've already gone over 142,000.
What is the fund balance?
For the Parks and Rec, I believe after they use their truck, we're looking at about 40,000 or more. I have that information from the previous meeting, I'm sorry. There it is. We're at 53,500, that's my estimate for the end of this year. And that's after the truck has been taken out. So subtotal of expenditures is from the previous pages. the ending of the expenditure page, minusing off the revenue, the total appropriation on the tax rate is $12,303. That's an increase of $55,372 over last year's. It's 21.55% increase on the on the amount needed from taxes.
So if we have $300,000 in revenue, and is it 352,000, 62,000 in expenses?
If we have,
450,000.
we have 454,833 in expenditures.
And 300 in revenue.
No, 300 in expenses,
We have
covered by the tax rate.
142,530 from revenue. So the rest of that 312,303 comes from tax, property tax. That's the amount allotted for the Parks and Rec Department. And this is under the proposed budget.
We already contracted them.
So knowing where your staffing is, I mean, a lot will come from this MOU and what the responsibilities will be of your staff.
Yep.
Right? So,
Yeah, 'cause your staff have to do the plowing for the school, correct?
We would probably hire another part-time person, assuming we get the second full-time person. So it'd be 3 people to do the plowing. It'd be someone coming in for the winter time to help take care of that. And that would also help keep our overtime expenses down. Because if it's only the 2 of them, A, we don't want them to burn out, and B, would keep our costs down, paying someone flat rate rather than overtime rate.
so then in the summer, are they gonna be at the school doing stuff, lawn maintenance?
It could be.
Just
Well,
curious,
if
because
that would be up to the school hiring that person. It would be us hiring them for what we need them for, and then if they get hired by the school, that's a separate item for them.
You also have to consider every time that there's a little park that goes in, anywhere in town, that the town has taken on, similar to this Harmony Park, you have to realize that we have staff that need to take care of that. So as part of the River District and all of the work out back of Main Street, the more little green spaces we have, the more that we may have to take care of. We have the little Flatiron that's down here as you go out West Main Street and down Meadow Street. That has to be taken care of. So, you know, the more little sections, we're now being asked, I believe, to take care of the little area by the stoplights down as you go out Industrial Park Road.
Yeah, we mow the places where the Coin Company flower beds are. If you head out this way, Union, there's a Welcome to Littleton sign on the left-hand side. We take care of that. There's one down by Walmart. There's little green spaces all over town. It's actually Park and Rec staff taking care of. And that's us driving the tractors down, unloading, weed whackers, whatever we need to do. It adds time for setup, takedown, whenever you go to one of those spaces. So.
The other thing that increased last year was the ice rink is double the size that it was previous. There is also a little bit of a, I don't know, I called it a hockey program, but it's to teach children skills. Our grounds maintenance person does this. He's a big hockey fan, and he is trying to put on a program, and he started it last year to teach, what is it, skills and techniques.
So we want to have, like in the summertime, I ran a week-long soccer camp for 2 hours a day. We ran tennis. I want to run more than that in the summertime, but we also want to start winter programming. Starting in January, we're going to be doing ski lessons in Mount Eustis, trying to utilize another local hill. And with the skating rink, we had a terrific skating rink, very well maintained, huge. So bringing back a hockey program is something that we would like to do. And so I want him to run that program for me.
And hopefully Mother Nature cooperates.
Hopefully.
Are we still using our Zamboni attachment?
It actually belongs to Mr. Clough. Did I say that right?
No, Mr. Club has been providing the tractor.
He's been, oh, yeah, so the resurfacer. Yes, we still have the same resurfacer. Yeah, and so we have the resurfacer and we put it on his tractor.
Yeah. They've been donating that for many years.
Yeah,
Very generous of them, obviously, because
yes.
this is in keeping with the Clough family. It's been pretty good. I mean, obviously, that makes a huge difference in the quality of the ice that you
Yes,
can
it does.
produce. So. And the liner, are we using the liner or not?
We're using the same liner. We purchased tape this year. And I know they have to heat it up, so they were actually out there with torches warming it up so they could get the tape down. It looks really good right now. We have the liner down and the walls up, if you would like to go check it out. Now the goal is to keep snow off of it, to keep the ground freezing deeper and deeper. And as soon as it gets cold enough and we have a good stretch of weather, we'll be starting to put water down.
What kind of shape is the liner in? Is it?
It's in rough shape,
Yeah.
but it's good for this year. And you know, the biggest thing is it's hard folding it up. It's very difficult.
Well, and the other thing I wonder, not that I've been involved, but you know, in the springtime, you pretty much need to wait for all the ice to melt. And my sense is that maybe sometimes somebody tried to start taking it out before it was really.
That could have happened. I know
I mean, that's a.
Patrick has been doing a good job of maintaining the equipment, making sure all our grease fittings are all set. He takes care of the equipment really well, and he views the liner as equipment.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just saying,
passionate about the-
but you know what, in the springtime, you get anxious to turn the use into something else. Well, I mean, you kind of have to wait, and really, you need to wait for it to all melt, and probably need to pump off the water, you know, so that you can actually, oh yeah, that's a big job.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about
it takes
that.
a lot of time to get that thing going and taken down.
Chris, is your enrollment, you call it enrollment, participation, attendance, how do you refer to the number of kids that participate in all these programs? The bottom line is the attendance enrollment in your winter program, your after-school program, your summer program, is it increasing, and do you have a projection for the next 5 years or 10 years? Is it like?
For 5 years, it's kind of hard to tell. Over the last few years, it has increased from this past summer. And I think as we expand the type of programming that we have, bringing back the summer sports programs, I had people from different towns coming. I ran a softball clinic that Plymouth State came up from. We had kids from Lafayette area, Bethlehem, so we're drawing in different towns now. And so as we expand those programs, I'm seeing our enrollment going up over the next years.
Do you happen to have that off the top of your head what these different enrollments are?
It really depends on the program.
Like you maybe had 70 after school today, is that what you said?
No, we have around 50 a day in the after school program.
Your summer program?
Yeah, that's anywhere from 70 to 85,
A day.
and it could be more if we have one of the fun field trips planned.
Right.
So there's a lot of kids coming through. We had about 30 in our soccer camp. Our swim lesson numbers are down, but I think that has to do with the pool and the water. By building a new swimming facility, a lot of them have zero entry, which is pretty much a ramp going down into the water. By having that area where kids are comfortable walking, something that they're comfortable with, you're going to increase the number of kids that are enjoying swim lessons and coming back again. So, moving forward by increasing the way we teach, the way we run our programs, our staff training, by increasing those things, we're increasing the enjoyment that the kids are having and our retention rates.
The baby pool, did that get opened up this year?
It did get opened up. One of the things, we ended up having to close it halfway through because it wasn't permitted for. And there was also a $1,000 piece, between $700 and $1,000 that I didn't have in the budget that you have to put on that senses changes in the suction. So when it was installed by the company last year, they did not put that piece on, which is required by law. So when we had our pool inspection, it did get shut down for that. And I made the decision to keep it closed for the last 3.5 weeks of the summer, instead of spending $700 this budget season.
So you do have time to ask you about the green building. Tell us about the green building. You said it's not used, and what, if it were, what would it be used for?
So right now, it is okay to use it as a warming hut for skating.
And how big is this building?
I don't know the square footage.
Which one is it, so I can? So I can-
This is the one that was the grandstand for the old Remick baseball
Okay,
field.
all right.
When
It used to be the backstop.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So right now, the first floor is used. The top floor is not supposed, no one who's not park staff or under the age of 18 can go up there. You have to be park staff and an adult.
Just because safety reasons?
Yeah,
State law, state,
it's
New Hampshire
condemned.
came in, Department of Labor.
The top floor is condemned.
Yeah.
And part of it was the electrical work. So we had a light go out. They don't make the fixture anymore. They don't make the bulbs. We
You
had it.
said enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know what the next thing on the capital budget might be.
Anyway, we had to do some immediate safety.
Okay, that's too bad.
Yep.
There
We'll
used
have
to
to
be locker
address it.
rooms, there used to be locker rooms for the football, baseball.
Yeah.
It was
In,
made out of bleachers, I
in-
heard.
in two
Well, it was the
previous,
bleachers. Well, it just got, basically, it was the backstop with bleachers, and it basically just got enclosed. Is what happened.
It worked
Yeah,
well for years.
When you were in high
Just
school,
off the well line.
that was your backstop, right?
Oh, yeah.
You played baseball, that was the home plate.
Long ways back from.
Yep.
They say, before they redid that field, in Berlin, you'd hear stories about the kids who'd come back from Littleton and play a baseball game. They said that when you were standing at home plate and you were looking at the left fielder, you only could see about this much of him. Is that right, Ed?
Wow.
If you laid down and home plate looked at the left field, you could see this much of it. Left field.
They fixed that now.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they
it's-
put a huge amount of money in the field and reoriented it, and
Yeah.
it was a beautiful field. I mean,
At a previous town meeting, the voters approved monies to hire an architect, and we've been working with an architect in the past year and a half, probably, to design a proposed new recreation facility,
You mean
the new building.
just not a building, but a whole recreation facility?
Yeah,
The
and we,
pool, the gymnasium and things like that?
So in the current plan, just to make it feasible for our residents and taxpayers, the plan includes a gymnasium, fitness center, kitchen, recreation area, some classrooms, but it also includes room for expansion. So you can have a multiple phase plan, so that it doesn't all hit you at once. So you can start up and then add to it later.
On the same site?
Yeah, as in, there's room for expansion on the building.
And would an indoor pool be part of the thought at some point in time?
Yes, that's either the pool or whatever, whatever the next plan is, that would get added on.
so we got to designing it so you can add
Yep.
in the
We
future.
had 2 public input sessions
Yeah.
2 years ago,
And
or a year and a half ago,
it's gonna be time for another one in another couple
Yeah,
weeks.
pretty
with
soon.
options, last I remember.
Yeah.
You could position the wood boiler so you could heat both the indoor. I know, yes, I'd vote for the hot tub.
Yeah.
Right next to the tennis court.
Yeah.
Cause now we're talking, let's go. Go big or go home,
Yeah.
so.
Whatever, yes, but yes, when we think about it, let's think about
Doing
going
right.
down the road.
Now, one of the questions Diane would normally ask, and I'm gonna ask, is warrant articles.
Okay.
So,
First on the agenda, we've had a group of residents who are who started the dog park commission a couple months before I got here. It's been just over a year, just under a year, somewhere around there. And we've done a very good job of reaching out to the community. We've raised, I think, over $2,000 so far. Just from selling stickers, doing small fundraisers, selling dog biscuits. We are now one of the partners of the month at the food co-op for 2019, which on average raises over $3,000 per group that gets that. So we've done a good job in outreach, marketing. So that's going to be a project that's we're going to put in for a warrant article for. We still need to pick a final location for a plot, but our message has been it's not an if, but a when. It's a when and a where at this point.
We have a great one right along the rail trail, but we're waiting for the DOT to determine if it could be declared surplus property.
Yep.
So they said that process, I applied before
On
tonight.
South Street?
Yeah,
We've asked for that half a dozen times.
that's right, yeah. So we've asked for it again, and they said that it usually takes about almost a year to get through the review process, so.
Not the landfill though?
No,
That's not feasible?
There's some issues there that our environmental company that has to monitor the wells had. There's some issues with the liner. They said that it's possible, but they highly don't recommend it. So, same message kind of from DES was, you could do it, but it'd be better if you didn't. So,
Special rules.
You still have the methane coming out of it.
yeah, there's still methane. The wells are actively tested. In fact, one of the wells this past year, it wasn't functioning properly. Like we weren't able to get any material out of it, and so we had to, for DES, we had to drill a new well and get that active again so we could test what's coming out. So that's an ongoing thing in the future. So.
At the time that we made that decision, if you remember, Frank Dodge asked if we considered moving it.
Oh, wow.
But that's right, I mean, Frank was thinking outside the box, and, you know, I mean, it could have been done and over, not an expensive deal, but, yeah. But anyway,
Interesting.
it didn't carry the day, but at least it was worth considering, and credit to Frank for bringing up the option.
You know, as property values increase, you know, alternative options become, expensive options might become more viable. I mean, who knows, maybe that's a great site to development 10 years in the future, 15 years in the future, who knows?
Just a quick note on the dog park. We have had tremendous issues with dog waste on
Yes.
rec fields.
Yes.
And there's just seems very, you know, we even talked about removing some sections of fence so you could never close it off because we had.
Is this problem unique to Littleton, or do other municipalities have a problem, and how do they deal with it?
Have you talked with any other rec guys?
I haven't heard much from this area, but I know a lot of the bigger cities have them. They've got them in, you know, accessible areas to downtown, near schools, so that they're accessible to the bulk of the people. I don't know of many facilities that have fenced areas exactly like we do. Like I used to drive on, I used to commute every week right through Gorham, and all their fields are right out in the open. There's no fences there. So I don't know of any towns in the area that have the same issues that we do.
It is I mean, from just a little bit of research, it's a common problem, you know, and Littleton has chose to address it. We created a ordinance so that, you know, we can find people who are, you know, misusing the field.
Do we have cameras on those fields?
Well, we've deputized some people. We've got,
We're working on it.
yeah, we've got Milton, you know, on task. And,
Patrick?
We are going to be,
yeah.
Patrick and myself are going to be trained up. We haven't had a chance to yet. It's been a little bit crazy. But we will be dog officers.
Something like that, yeah. I'm not sure what the title
They
is.
told me I can't have a gun, but
Just no bullets, and you can't.
Yeah.
you
A
can't-
pencil and a-
Being bags only, actually tennis
You
balls.
get some people that are pretty
Yeah.
stubborn. I mean, we actually, about a year or two ago, we opened them a little bit, opened the gates and locked them against the fence so you couldn't close the gate. He brought sheets of plywood with him and put it across and put his two big dogs out.
See, two big dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that guy.
Yeah. So I mean,
Inconsiderate, in all
it's,
caps.
Set up at Norton. The Norton.
that was the Lily field, yeah.
I've seen them.
So are there any more questions for the Parks and Rec individuals?
Well, thank you very much, obviously,
Thank you, guys.
you sense a new wind in the sails, so that's good.
It's been a lot of fun. We have a great community here. And just the amount of outreach that you have from the community, people getting on board with projects with the dog park, with the playground, the local businesses, just everyone's been pitching in and is on board with recreation. So it's nice to see, and it's much appreciated from the kids in town and from myself. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah.
So you can leave if you want, or you can stay. It's pretty boring.
Appreciate you guys.
So,
Thank you.
you want me to keep going?
I
I tried my best.
You know, you hit the highlights.
Very nice to meet you.
I will. All right.
New show, we obviously have faith in you, that you're working out as best. Keep your work out, given that confusion. I hope to hear soon.
Thank you.
What you are getting is revised, you're getting the original draft budget that I gave you, and a revised default budget. So you're getting to show you what lines have changed throughout the budget. Because of all of the new budget laws, and all of my emails back and forth between two attorneys and DRA will not get into specifying exactly what the default budget is, other than they'll read you the default budget law. And they won't go into the big, yes, you can do this, no, you can't, this is what you need to look at. They're the enforcers after the fact. So what I've done is I've gone through all of the emails back and forth with the attorneys, which I haven't had a chance to summarize, but I will. This is the revised default budget. And what I would like you to look at is page 4. So on your budgets that you've got, the worksheets that you've gotten before, you've got 2018 approved, you have 2019 default, and what the difference is between 18 and the 19 default. You have your 2019 proposed budget, and what the difference is between 18 and 19. On the very tail end of this, I have put the 2019 revised budget summary. So you have every single line that I've gone down through. You've also got the new percentage. On my original default budget, I don't have it on here, but I believe it was 3.36% from 2018 for the operating expenditures. And now I've got it down, or we've got it down to 1.42%.
Which is basically due to new interpretation.
New interpretations.
So, and what was the original, 3 point?
It was the difference between, and this is only on the operating expenditures, 3.36.
Now, these are copies.
Those are your copies. And you can keep that other copy I gave you too. So, you look through, you continue on to the next page. It gives you the outside board funds, the debt service, and the enterprise funds. So if you look at 2018 approved budget, you have your $9,151,949. Your original default that I gave you was $9,456,738. That was a 3.33% increase. You come across and on your right-hand side, you look at my revised budget. It's $9,292,564. It's a 1.54% increase. The difference is $140,615. I've also gone through the proposed, because when I did the debt service, last week I gave you the debt service, I contacted about our loan that we're using for the sub-area 5, which is the sewer project that's out behind Main Street, on Mill Street, Saranac, Immanusick, all of that area. What happened was when we took that additional $340,000 and added it to our $2 million project, moved our due date to start paying the principal on that loan. And the reason why it moved is because half the project is not complete as of the end of December.
Just a quick clarification. Yeah, that's not the Saranac Immanusick, that's the Mill Pleasant Cross
Okay.
Union. Yep.
There's too many projects. So,
The other big part.
Yeah, the other big one. Yeah.
it's called Sub-Area 5.
Yes.
So that project and those loan payments, the principals are not due until 2020. So that saved some money in this budget. So you look at my proposed budget in here, our proposed budget. In the previous reports I gave you, we were looking at over 6%. We're now to 4.68% in the proposed. It's a difference of $428,047 from last year's approved budget. So there still is a difference there, but the percentage isn't quite as high as it was in the previous proposed budget. And the only one that I gave you the revised budget on in this whole packet, showing the revised proposed, is the sewer budget. So page 45 of 45, the very last page, and I know it's very scrunched up. You have the default, the adjusted, corrected 2019 proposed, and 2019 revised default. So this budget has reduced down. Originally, I had in there $159,000 for a principal payment on that loan. Because the loan doesn't start until 2020, it is moved out there. The interest is still there because we still have to continue to pay the interest on that loan. So I'm not sure how you want me to go about reviewing the revised default. I can tell you the things, basically the difference. I believe it was 30, right around 36 from the previous one that I had done. It was $159,000 for the principal, plus roughly $36,000 that between the two attorneys that I could not include in the default. Most of those were contract increases. They're called multi-year contract increases. From now on, whenever there's a multi-year contract increase, unless it's fully explained to the voters, like during the deliberative session, when we present the budget, if it's not explained out to what's going to happen this year, and it's going to go up 2% that year and 3% the next year, or it's not a special warrant article, we cannot include those increases in the default budget. I have found out the increase in workers' compensation can be included in the default. The increase in property liability and changes in property liability do not have to be included in the default. And the reason why is property liability insurance is not, does not have to be, is not a law requirement. There's no law saying the town has to have property liability.
Where there is with workers' comp.
Where there is.
So it doesn't have to be, it can't be included.
It can't be, any increase cannot be, it has to be the same number as last year.
Yeah.
But the increase or decrease is in the proposed budget.
So all these adjustments that Karen made basically had to do with things that in the past that we would have included in the default by the prior definition or perceived definition of default. But now that they redefined the default budget, basically lessening what can be put into the default budget, that's the bottom line. And unless anybody wants to go through this line by line, I'm more than happy that Karen obviously has done her due diligence on this.
Yes, ask me the next meeting we have, or,
But that's really what it comes down to. And then, as with Karen's point on the insurance, workers' comp insurance as opposed to liability insurance, that it's the thought process behind it, which is how it was ended up being
Yes.
directed.
Karen, when did we ever go to the default budget? When have we ever used the default budget?
only once have we had, that I've been here, have we had the default budget. And that was 2007 or 8, I think. 2006, I'm sorry, 2006.
Apparently, obviously, somebody in the legislature thought, I mean, there has been some frustration over the years with the default budget, and I can remember being in some discussions, not with the current town management, but prior to that. I mean, I think probably the reason for all this was that it was certainly to any town managers or selectmen's advantage to include the stuff in the default that you could. And, you know, the closer the default came to the proposed, I mean, it really didn't give the voters much of a choice, which was initially intended, whether rightly or wrongly, but that was the case. So I think that somewhere along the way, I know we've had some citizens bring up certain things, asked why it was in the default, and in most cases, I think that the citizen who brought up the point ended up being corrected that it shouldn't have been. But it was easy to just throw it in, and if it was thrown in, then it made operating that much easier if the default budget ended up being what was imposed due to the failure of the proposed budget to pass. But in any case, that's where we are, and at Littleton, we expect to sell the proposed budget, so.
I don't want you to be surprised, but according to the attorneys that I dealt with, the wages for myself, which my position is restructured, but my numbers in default are exactly what they were last year.
It's because by definition.
By definition, that's how it has to be. My full job is not eliminated.
No.
I'm still here, but in the proposed, you will see the restructured position.
But if for some reason we ended up with a default, that doesn't mean that those monies would be
Right.
spent.
Right, they would be probably adjusted because according to the default, they can still be adjusted throughout the line. So say a contract that we have that's increasing, we haven't been able to increase it in the default. We're still able to pay that because we have that little bit extra that was there for my salary. Now, Andrew's assistant that we had in the budget last year for $20,000, we had originally put in the default that that person was going to be working instead of 20 hours, 32 hours, because we have someone moving out of the executive budget and we have somebody taking part-time work in the executive budget. We were going to move his assistant to 32 hours a week in the default. We can't do that. We can only do that in the proposed. So it has tied a little bit of hands on some things that are in the default, but I don't want you to be surprised because I went according to what the attorneys that would have to defend us to build this default budget.
Yeah, well, Karen, yes, we thank you for your efforts and your diligence, and I think we all have a comfort level that you guys are right, or supposed to write.
And anyone questions, you can send them through Diane, send them through Heather, send them to Steve.
But don't send them to me.
If you send them to me, I'll make sure that I send the answer out to anyone on the budget committee. Okay?
Gotcha.
You can
Yeah.
talk about it.
Did you have to make copies of the?
Well, I made
Alright.
copies of
That works.
my sheet.
So, the select board met yesterday afternoon in a work session to review the variables that they have control over for the setting of the tax rate. And really, that's the unreserved fund balance and also the overlay, thank you. And this group had expressed concern over our low percentage of unreserved fund balance that we currently have. The DRA recommends 5%, which is really around $1 million. And I think that, you know, this board and the select board also are in agreement that that's a little bit high. But with the percentage that we're at, I believe we're at 1.12%. So of our operating budget for unreserved fund balance. And so the select board opted not to use any unreserved fund balance to offset the tax rate. Our current fund balance level, current retained, is at $235,604. So it's pretty tight. And I think that you know, this month is a good example of why we don't want to go any lower. We've been basically borrowing time from the school by delaying payments to school.
Will that get back to 500 by the end of the year?
It should.
Yeah.
The way, there's some new audit rules and some audit adjustments that two of the leases that I was doing, at the very tail end of last year for some of our vehicles that were approved at town meeting in 2017. Didn't get processed until 18 because the person I normally deal with retired the end of December. I didn't have time to get everything back and forth that needed to happen to get that done. So they moved that amount into what's called non-expendable prepaid expenditures. That amount is set aside to process, and once it's processed, that money comes back into fund balance. That amount that was set aside was $298,413. I know it doesn't show on your paperwork. We do have overlay that we've set aside for abatements, and the auditors have set it aside for abatements, and that's $250,000. We've been maintaining some money set aside for overlay because we never know when there's going to be a settlement on different.
Or reval, during this year too, with the reval happening. At a reval year, usually you see more abatement requests or administrative abatements in order to correct any issues that are found. So, we use $200,000 for the overlay for the setting the tax rate.
For 2018.
Yeah. So the tax rate.
200 or 250?
200.
200,
Yeah.
but we have aside 250,000 on our records for previous overlay. So we have some utility overlays that we're still working on, DirecTV and
Eversource.
NEP.
And yeah.
So what's the difference other than the obvious?
One is for previous years.
So the 200 is?
The 200 is for this past evaluation. The 250 is from previous evaluations.
So actually, is there 450 in play?
There will be 450.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so this year we're setting aside an additional
200.
200.
We already know that there's 69,000 expended out of that for abatements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the end.
When we looked at 250, it was really a 6
Spent
cent
$69,000 already.
difference in the tax
In
rate.
already,
250
in
and
abatements.
200, so we lowered it. So the tax rate is $2.72 down from last year. We're going from $25.82 to $23.10, which is a 10.5% reduction in the tax rate. Now, the average town valuation, I think, went up by about 13%, and the tax rate itself went down by 10.5%. So due to having a great economy, and we're continuing to grow a diverse economy, you'll see that values are up, commercial values are up, industrial values are up, residential values are up, and it really depends on your home, or your property and how sales interacted, over the past with that. So what a lot of people I would recommend they do is you take a look at your valuation, and say for example that if your valuation went up by 13%. And the tax rate has gone down 10.5%, you still have a 2.5% spread that you need to think about for your upcoming escrow or tax bills.
Do we have what our town valuation was in 2017?
I have.
You had, last year you had them as far as
so
different.
Right. So this year we're up at 814 million for the actual net usable. Our gross is up over 900 million. But after you take out the deductions, current use, all those sort of things, we're at 814. So if you want to do apples to apples, the number from last year was 712 million. So we're up, about 102 million.
But then the breakdown of that you had last year as far as utilities, residential, commercial.
I don't have that breakdown with me, no.
In order to get that breakdown, let me see if I.
It's not on there.
It's not on this one.
Utilities.
You'd have to get it, I think, off the MS1.
Okay.
Yeah.
But maybe
we
at
can
some
get that
point
for
in
you.
time,
Yeah.
you could, it'd be just interesting to have that. Because obviously it's interesting just to see how they moved, those segments moved from one year to the next. Okay.
Yeah, something to keep in mind too is, we're in the process of a full reval, a slow motion full reval that takes over 5 years to do. We're doing a quarter of the parcels a year over 4 years, and then the 5th year we'll do another statistical revaluation. And at this point, we've gone over 50% of the parcels in the secondary.
Okay, we didn't do every parcel this year?
No, so there's different. There's one thing is the full reval. That's where we actually go door to door and we check to make sure everything, all the information is correct and that we've picked up any improvements.
And that's not what we did this year?
So this year is what's called a statistical revaluation. We take the data that we already have in the system
Yeah.
and then apply the Department of Revenue rules to come up, throw that against the sales and come up with new values.
For
So-
every property?
For every property. But we're continuing through our
Right.
reappraisal, basically, going through and looking at all the.
Right, but in the last 3 or 4 years, we had revalued the properties roughly a quarter of the calendar year.
That's what we're doing now, yes. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but wasn't this like, this wasn't the year we pulled it all together, so to speak, and then we're gonna start off on
Yeah.
another 5-year cycle?
No, so this is a mid-cycle
Mid-
statistical revaluation. What happens is, I think it's called the coefficient of dispersion, and there's also the equalization ratio.
Yeah,
And so if you look at what was happening in town, our values were so depressed that were on the books, they were so off, and sales were so far that our sales ratio was declining. That's percentage off of, that we were on sale, off.
well, so that's what generated our letter from the state, our percent evaluation letter they said we were undervalued by 11%.
Right, yeah, and growing, that disparity kept growing. So, and if you think about it, what happens is that equalization value is put onto a discount, and you think of that onto parcels. So if we're taxed, say it's a $100,000 property, or let's call it, say, the dam, a $200 million property, you're putting a discount on it every year, which then artificially inflates the tax rate because our values are so far off. So
Yeah, other than if everybody's value was off equally, it makes no difference.
right, but that's where I think you look at like the coefficient of dispersion.
Yeah.
And what we were seeing is they're not equally off. Like say commercial sales are higher than residential, or some portion of the market. For example, in the last statistical revaluation, mobile homes were actually up, and homes that were like say 150 to 250 were down. And so there's a correction that has to happen to get everything back on the same playing field based on market sales. So yeah, it's a constant moving target.
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's right, although I guess all I can say is, based on sales that I'm familiar with, I haven't seen evidence that supports what I'm being told, but.
Yeah, I mean, from talking with Andy Smith and other realtors, the thing about evaluation is you're always looking back. So it's always a catch-up game. So even now, we're theoretically at 100%, meaning that we're accurate. Even now, those numbers are going to.
Oh yeah, that's right. As soon as you set them, they start moving again.
And the thing that I find interesting about a revaluation is always, any home you look up, if you were to ask the person, will you sell your house for that price?
Yeah.
It's usually, are you kidding me? That's 20% below what I'd sell that for.
Well, what I'd ask for, what they'd end up taking for, could be a different answer. But yes,
Yeah.
most people, I would think, would like to sell their property for more than what it's valued at. Or would like to think that they could. Obviously, that doesn't happen all the time.
Right. I think right now we're seeing a pretty hot market where, like the realtor was just telling me about a house where the asking price was like $250, and somebody came in and somebody already had offered it up to like $275. And
But in this last round of valuation, you also had property that had recently been bought, like within the last 6 months. Let's say it was purchased for $119,000, and we're giving them a value of $142,000, and it was just bought.
Yeah. There's difficult equations that are in there, the way that the rules work, where there's a thing called sales chasing, so that's illegal.
Is that like chasing your tail?
A little bit. It's like, yeah, it is exactly that. I mean, that's where you could take like the actual sale and you put it in for that property, what the property's actual value at, where they have to base it more on an overall view of that sector of sales. And the understanding of it is beyond me. I have a 20,000 foot view. There's a book that's this thing that you have to have a certified New Hampshire assessing official.
Obviously, those of us have been around longer than we'd like to think. I mean, every time we do one of these, it obviously creates more consternation than what we'd like to have. But it's just that I wish the system were a bit more bulletproof, because it just seems that there's so many holes in it when it's done that have to be corrected, that, you know, you'd have more faith in it if there weren't as many gross errors.
Yeah, it's difficult too. I mean, with Littleton, you know, a lot of added value could be based on, say, building permits. And so one of the things that we run into often, you know, certified New Hampshire assessing officials who operate throughout the state, they are really surprised by the lack of building permits that we have, because they really base a lot of their information off of what comes in through that. So if we don't have any internal renovations, or, you know.
Yeah, we don't require building permits for a lot of things that other towns
So
do.
we miss quite a bit of revenue. You know, one of the assessors that I talked to a while back in one town, they had missed every half bath. And so, you know, they went through and just by adding that, and added like $2 million to the town's, you know, total valuation. But we miss so much because you don't have to.
Costs a lot of money to watch games.
Yeah.
Some years ago, the average home was assessed at $153,000. Do we know what it is today?
I have that on my list to go take a look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have that.
But I think those, when you get a chance, I mean, I think those would be some interesting numbers to,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to kind of know those, and, you know, particularly last year when you had the breakdown of commercial property and what it changed, I mean, that obviously gave us a lot of insight, like when we were considering the expansion of the industrial park or whatever. I mean, when you look at where your possibilities are, obviously I think a lot of people saw that, they didn't realize how important that park has been to us.
And, you know, something that, you know, the good news is that the economy's doing well, that the assets of property that people own are increased in value. But, you know, there are considerations that people should take into account. Small businesses should think about when maybe their end of year purchases, and take a look at any spread between the decrease in tax rate and the increase in their value to, you know, make any end of year decisions so if they're ready for whatever escrow payment or tax bill that they're going to pay.
Are we in any, are we vulnerable to the way that the dam is appraised? Because it pays around 20% of our taxes now.
Yeah, more than that, yeah.
So, but do we have any control over how it's appraised? Because it's gone down a little bit.
So last year there was a piece of legislation, HB 324, and that was a major threat. What happened was utility companies had started working closely with the Department of Revenue Administration and certain legislators, and had introduced a piece of legislation that would basically be a windfall for utility companies, including the facility here. We did a projection on what would happen to Littleton if that bill passed. Our tax rate would have immediately gone up by $5 per thousand. And Berlin, I think, was about 10%. I mean, $10 per thousand if it took place. So the bill went to study committee, and I don't know if it's likely to make it out. So yeah, there's vulnerability there. What we are doing right now, we're working, the Moore Dam Committee, myself and Select Board are working with the new owner, Great River Hydro, and we're pretty far along in a discussion in doing a pilot. A pilot is rare. I think there may only be one other utility pilot in the state of New Hampshire. But what we're looking at is trying to create a stable agreement for multi-years.
You mean payment in lieu of taxes?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So rather than having the expense and the risk of fluctuations, the evaluation of the facility is very complex. It doesn't just use the value of the land itself. It uses like cost regression analysis and profit analysis. There's a component of it that talks about the energy futures market, the capacity market, and the federal regs that they get paid. And it's a pretty in-depth process, very expensive to go through. And so our hope is to have a 3 or a 5 year arrangement that's fair to both parties, and that will give us some stability. So right now we don't have one.
We don't have stability, and it could fluctuate, and our rate could be $5.
Yeah, we just saw that not too long ago, where we ended up having to do kind of a settling of a 2-year value, if you remember, and it hit the tax rate, I think, by the amount of about 30.
Because actually you adjusted in the second year for both years.
That's right, yeah. you're right. And actually, just to even think about what happened, several years ago, there was a settlement that happened, and we're paying $452,000 a year in debt to make up for that settlement with the Great River. It was not Great River, it was
Trans-Canada.
Yeah, Trans-Canada. I mean, that does come off in 2021. Yeah.
Well,
I
I
think
just
just in
don't-
time for the school.
The reason I ask, I don't want us to get, put to sleep like a frog in water that's gradually getting boiled, and that this dam will always provide us 20-some-odd% of our tax rates. And we forget that.
That's right. And the new ownership, and the new CEO, they're very frank, very fair, and we're having very productive discussions. And I mean, even tonight I was looking at our final draft that we present to them for consideration, and then the more dam committee will consider it and then make a recommendation to the select board whether or not to adopt the arrangement. So, but it looks pretty fair.
Are we done?
I won't bring anything else up.
Karen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we want to depress your word, but I mean, your overall explanation is very good, and we appreciate that. Okay, so other than that, it's happy Thanksgiving, and when do we next meet?
Thursday the 29th for the school meeting.
Oh,
And
are we meeting here the 20th? Yeah.
Yeah,
We
next
meet Tuesday also?
Yes,
So next week, Tuesday and Thursday.
yes, cafeteria at the high school.
You will be here? I'll be here. Okay.
5 minutes late, but you'll be there.
The Opera House and Police Department next week presenting,
Okay.
and I believe there's some agencies that Diane sent out.
Okay, I thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy, be safe.
Sounds good.